We're live on Facebook. Hello, 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 and welcome to For Feck's Sake Marketing Adventures with Carmel and another amazing guest that I have today, the awesome Tracy. So thank you for joining us, Tracy.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Very excited.
All the way. So if you were on last night, you would have seen we were interviewing Brian from the US. Today we've gone to Sweden and I'm in Perth. So For Feck's Sake Marketing Adventures is where we bring you tips, tricks and insights to help you grow your business and also bring you some amazing people, again, like Tracy, that have been through what you're going through. So they might be able to give you some tips or hacks or insight into how you can get past some things you need to. So Tracy, that's joining me today, is a coach, advisor and speaker, and she specializes in intellectual property. Now, it's one of the things that I've kind of been going, yeah, whatever. But we had a chat there a couple of weeks ago, and Tracy used to work at the Swedish Intellectual Property office as a coordinator and program manager. So she knows a good bit of thing about this. So as a small business and entrepreneur, the importance of why you need to protect your IP and how you can do it as well. So she understands that importance and she's going to talk to us about that today. However, if you're joining us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever you're joining us, make sure that you give us a thumbs up or a comment underneath. If you have any questions, we'll get back to them if we don't get to them live. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe and ring that bell so that every time we have these interviews, you'll get alerted. So Tracy, tell us a little bit about who Tracy is and how she got to here in the first place.
That's a good question. Yeah, so I used to work at the Intellectual Property office here in Sweden. And I worked for 13 years there, but with 6 years, I worked with intellectual property training programs for least developed countries. So they would have projects of change for their country, how important it is when the intellectual property isn't in place in their country. So they would have, like, they need to have a law or they needed more awareness or something. So I was sitting in to listening to all these projects and all the experts teaching them how to manage their projects and what kind of intellectual property knowledge they needed. So that's where my intellectual property knowledge comes from. And it's this is like a side note that you don't think about, like for one country, for instance, for Ethiopia, it changed the whole economy of the country that they registered the Ethiopian coffee as a geographical indication brand. So it's super important for everyone. And I usually look at, like, what the small entrepreneur needs, because when experts talk, they usually do the overview and they also tell you how to protect it, but they don't tell you why it's important for me as like a small business owner. Who cares? I'm not, who's going to go and infringe on me because I don't have much customers yet, Yeah. But you need to think, like, wider. You need to think that you might grow. And even if you don't get someone infringing in you, it can be a lot of problems if you infringe in someone else's rights. So you still need to manage always.
Absolutely. So how did you get into this kind of business in the first place? Like, who is Tracy as a younger person growing up that has landed into this kind of environment?
Oh, that was just by coincidence.
Okay.
The reason I applied to the intellectual property office is that I always liked the idea of invention. So I actually started there to just register every intellectual property that came in. So I was like thinking that I was going to register like patent applications, right? So that's inventions. That's like a technical solution to a problem. So I'm thinking like you're gonna see like a lot of fun, crazy inventions. So
yeah.
And then I'm so disappointed because like a patent application is very, very boring.
Right.
I mean, people that love it might like it, but it's a lot of, like, you need to write it in a certain way. You have claims for like what to protect, and it goes down, and it's very, very technical. So you need to be an expert to write those kind of applications. So it was only a few crazy applications that came in. So I was like, oh, this was not what I signed up for. So that's the reason I started to work with intellectual property. And then I was also working within the trade union and helping employees and managers to communicate better and negotiate for my members there. So I was also, that's also, I do some coaching now. So that was what I was doing at the same time. And then I saw the need at the department for the courses, that they needed more resources. And I didn't like my position at the moment. So I actually got replaced to there by my own request, because I solved the problem for my bosses. so yeah, so I just entered there, and it was too easy to get replaced. So I was like, do I really want to do this? You know?
Yeah. I love your honesty. That's great. So tell us, as a small business owner or an entrepreneur, and look, I'm guilty of this myself. My kind of attitude is, oh, well, there's no new ideas. You can have my stuff. So why is it important for small businesses to actually know, A, what their intellectual property is, and B, to make sure that it's protected?
Yeah, so the reason I can first, I think I need to break it down, what kind of intellectual property you need to manage.
Yeah.
So for small, like the ordinary business, we don't handle patents in general. It's more if you have like a more technical side. But every business, you have your brand, your trademark, and you put so much time and effort in building your brand. So everyone will see you, and so customers can come back. Everyone knows that's like your brand is everything. You put your everything into that. And then what happens if you don't protect it? Like if maybe you build a brand and it's someone else's name you build your brand around, then they can come and say like, hey, you can't use this name anymore. They can shut down your all social media and your website and whatever, because they can claim that you're infringing in their brand. In general, you usually don't get sued. You don't usually have to go to court if you infringe in someone's, right? If it's like an honest mistake, it's usually just you get taken down. That's the best thing that can happen.
Yeah.
You know? But then your customers can't find you anymore. You need to start building your brand again. I mean, for a small business, that can be devastating, because you have to start from zero again.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important. And also, if someone else infringes in your brand, you can't really, it's difficult to prove that you had it first if you didn't register it. I mean, there is some protection if you have a brand and you have been working with it a lot and it's well known, you can have some protection for that. But if you don't have a registration, you will have to go through court to prove that. But if you have a registration, it's easier.
Yeah, one of the things, sorry to cut you off, that we talked about, if I remember correctly. So quite often as the small business owners, they go, okay, this is my business name. I'm going to check if the domain is taken. Yeah. And they'll check that and they go, no, the domain isn't taken. Happy days, off I go. But I think, if I'm right, you said to me that it's not just that, you have to trademark it as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So a common misunderstanding is that people think that they have protected the name when they have registered the business, like the business registration, or as you say, the domain. So they think that, okay, I protected it because I own the domain, so it's mine. But it doesn't mean anything if you don't have the trademark for it. So if you have a website and a domain, and I own the trademark, I can get that domain from you.
Right. Okay. Even if you trademarked it afterwards. So for example, my business name is the Communication Queen, for example. So if somebody went and trademarked that now and then came back to me, please don't let anybody do it, came back to me and said, hey, you need to take all that down because I trademarked that name, they could do it even if the business was existing for years and years.
I mean, then we came to that, like what I say, that maybe you can prove that you had the business for years, and maybe you can, but it's much easier if you have the registration. It's more a clear cut that this is your name. Yeah. So yes, you can maybe fight it, but you will lose it. They will take it down first, like instantly, because I heard a case I'm in some intellectual property groups on internet, and there was one case with a business that haven't protected their name, and they were doing really well, like they're starting to do really well, the business, and a competition to them actually trademarked their name and took them down online. So they were like devastated about that. Then they can of course fight to get it back, but it's like, it's more risk, you will lose time, at least, even if you can fight and win with lawyers, it will be super expensive. A trademark registration isn't that expensive, and it also lasts for 10 years. So if you split that out on many years, it's, nothing, it's worth it. It's like a cheap insurance for your name.
Yeah, so you starting a business, you need to make sure you choose a name that nobody else has, check if the domain is taken, and is there a way of checking if that is already trademarked or not?
Yeah, there's databases. Like you can go to your local intellectual property office, probably have a link to some kind of search place. Here in Europe, it's TMView. In the US, you have the USPTO, I think it's the name. So they have databases that you can just type in the name and search if it's available or not. And also, like, super important that a lot of people make as a mistake when they choose the name for the trademark is that it's too descriptive. So if you describe what you do, then it usually cannot be protected. So if I would say that I'm a marketer, like my name is marketing, the marketing agency, right?
Yeah.
Then that can never be protected because it's describing what I do.
Yes.
And this is super common that people have a very descriptive name because they want to tell their customers how to find them. But instead, make-up names are the best trademarks, like something that doesn't mean absolutely anything. And that's the strongest trademark you can have. Like if you check the big trademarks, like Coca-Cola or Spotify, or they don't say like what they do. They just have
it's Coca-Cola. Yeah. Coca-Cola plays music would be the tagline or something like that. Or, well, Spotify plays music, Carmel, Coca-Cola doesn't.
So just put the description as a tagline instead of as in the name. So that's also, and also people are, when they make a logo, because the logo also can be protected as a trademark and should be protected. So many people, they also I need a logo, let's go into Canva or some other platform and make my own logo from a template that everyone else used. That's going to be so nice. And then I see them on Facebook in entrepreneur groups. Oh, I made my own logo, and they look like very similar to many other logos that people made. So that's also a very common mistake. So
you can't trademark that.
No, because maybe you can. It depends on, because trademarks are also, they are protected in different classifications. It depends on how you describe what you do. So if you and I do the same thing and I describe it in another way, maybe they can coexist,
Right. Okay.
So even if they're under the same class, they can coexist sometimes. So that's why I always want to put a lot of descriptions under my trademarks. Every class I describe everything because it makes everything.
So for somebody who might be watching this and they're going, oh my God, I never knew that. So another thing, I guess underneath that again, so we've got the trademark your name, trademark that. But if you've got a course or something that you have developed, it's a framework or a blueprint or a whatever fancy name you want to put it, is that classified as your intellectual property that you need to protect as well?
Yeah, so you have two levels of intellectual property in that. I would say that the first one is, of course, copyright. Because in everything that you create and put online is copyright. So if you make a course, if you post a photo, if you blog, whatever you do, like when you create something like that, is copyright. So it's instantly copyrighted when you create it and you own it. The problem with copyright is sometimes to prove ownership, that you did it first. So that's why you can register copyright. In the US, for instance, you do it at the office there. In Sweden, we don't register copyright in general. We just register with the CMOs, that's collective management organizations that, you know, get the royalties. If you play music, they collect, so the musicians get paid, etc. But now there's a new platform I'm in cooperation with them. They're called Copyrights World. So what they do is that you just create a vault there, and then you just drag and drop your files, and it's instantly protected, and you can also monetize it online. So that's how you can.
Because I know in Australia with some people, they like on a website, they'll put down the bottom copyright and that's C in the circle, 2018 or something like that. But is that enough to do on, so say, your website?
It doesn't really prove anything. Like, I mean, it's enough. I mean, it should be enough, but the problem is to prove it if it gets to court, you know, if it's to prove who had it first. So with the registration, it's always easier to prove it. But it's, as I said, in Sweden in general, we don't register copyright because it is, you need, like, you have it as soon as you create it, it's yours.
Yeah. So what about, you said there was 2 areas. One was copyright. What's the second area?
Yeah, so sometimes if you have like a course, like a program or something, you might name it something. So you could also trademark it if it's something that's going on for a longer time. Like sometimes you have you have your own brand, but then you have product brands. So the course could be like a product brand, and then it would be a trademark in that too. Yeah.
Okay. Because my head is going, oh, there's a lot that people take for granted. That it seems. So with copyright, so when we all know that on social media in particular, or maybe it's even reading a book, you'll see something that triggers something in your head and you go, oh my God, I could write a post about that, or I could write something about that. I know it happens a lot. What percentage is it? So if you saw somebody's post or somebody's article, and I never am advocating anyone to copy any, I'm not advocating any plagiarism at all. So before somebody jumps on and goes, what are you talking about? But we all know you've read something, you go, oh my God, that happened to me. So we reframe it, we take it out, and we make our own story. But that thing has, but there are some people sometimes that will almost copy and paste. So for IP wise, for copyright wise, what percentage of that has to be completely different in order for somebody to say, yeah, similar idea, but it's not the same, if it ever came to that?
That's a very good question. Because it's different. Because so you can never, like, you should never like copy from one to another, like you say, that's infringement. And there's in Sweden, like in Europe, you don't, or in Sweden at least, we don't have fair use. They have something called fair use in the US, for instance.
Fair use,
fair use, that you can use some of it. But it's usually if you just quote someone, or if you want to talk about, like, I read this book, like if you talk about it, then you can do it. But fair use is not like my best area. But the thing that's very interesting that you're bringing up here is the issue of protecting an idea. Because if you read a post and you get inspired by that, that's the idea of the post, right? Yeah, and you can never protect an idea. So this can be a problem too. So if you go to board games, for instance, they are very difficult to protect because you can't really protect the idea of the board game. So someone else can make a similar board game, but you can protect the design of it, like the way it looks, the way the
little figurines or whatever.
And the cards, what you write, you can have copyright on that, so you can, like, different parts. But the idea for something, like, also if I make t-shirts with cats on, that holds a coffee cup, I can protect the cat on my picture, but I can't, like, prevent you from doing another t-shirt with a cat with a coffee cup,
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
idea can never be protected, but the image itself is protected. So that's why it's a good question, because you like, sometimes they want to protect an idea, and you can't really do that. You have to make something of the idea before it's protected. So if I go to my boss and I have an idea, and he takes it from me and he makes a lot of money, and I have nothing written down, it's not, my idea is useless.
Yeah. And you do hear that quite a lot. People say, oh, God damn it, that was my idea. And I told him about it. And now he's stolen it, but there's no way to prove that, because the idea is like this high chunking thing. It's actually being able to put it into action is where the what could I say, the insurance wise, the kind of marketable, the copyright, the everything is in the execution. It's not in just the idea of it.
Yeah, so what you do if you have a good idea that you want to share with someone that can execute it is, of course, that you need to make an agreement before, like what happens if the person is to use the idea you're going to take up at that meeting. So then you need to do like, you need to be cautious before, so you have like some written agreement before, and then you have a chance to negotiate and get money for the idea.
Yeah, yeah. And look, lots of people catch up for a coffee chat and they go, oh my God, I've got this great idea, blah, blah, blah. And somebody who has, number one, a high entrepreneurial mind and an opportunity kind of mind. And number two, somebody that may have the funds, or they're more inclined to execute stuff than somebody else taught. And my belief is there are no shortage of ideas. People say to me, what did I write? What did I do? Well, I don't go, ideas are not the problem. It's actually the execution of it and putting it into some kind of order that it can be consumed in a way that it's meant to by your ideal client.
Yeah,
that's where the work is.
Yeah, that's the challenge. That's to get it done and also get it out to the market in a good way.
Yes, well, to get it down and then to market it. So you help people now, as you said, I know you help people with conflict and things like that within the workplace as well. But do you have small businesses within this area also?
With the
IP protection?
Yeah. I have helped small businesses to protect their trademark. So in Sweden, I can help them with the whole registration. But I also been having some clients from the US when I just walk them through what they can do, like how they can do it, and also help with the search for the trademark, because even if anyone can go into the databases and search, you also need to know how to read the result, because it's also, I was talking about the classification. So if you do a search, you can go in, search, and then if you find the name, and then you want to look if it's expired or if it's valid still, because sometimes it's expired and it's fine, it's free. And also you need to check the classification, because if they're in another classification than you want to protect in, then it's likely you can get it anyway. And also you need to check what region it is, because when I protect my trademark, for instance, I start by protecting it in Sweden. And you can protect for Europe or for the US. So you need to also have, if you go international, you need to have a plan in what areas or countries you want to protect, because it costs to protect for every place.
In each country. Yeah, so you can't just do one thing and go, I've got that protected all over the world. You have to do it in each individual country. Would that be right?
Yeah, if it's a big brand, I would do that. I mean, you still have some proof that you had it, but yeah, you should protect it in every region that you're active in.
And I know you're not in Australia, and you deal with the US, and you also deal with Europe. Is it much different, would you imagine, in Australia? Because I know some of the viewers will be in Australia too.
No, I mean, the basics of protecting your trademark or your, the trademark we're talking about now is, it's the same everywhere. Yeah. So what's the problem? It can be some like differences in the process for protecting, like the way you register it, like the admin for it, right? But the classification is global. So if the country is in the system, they have the same classification. You have this, it's also a little bit different. What's descriptive, for instance, in US, the rules are really strict. Like they will say it's descriptive, very like, if it's something, in Sweden, you can put your name and then something descriptive and you can get away with that. But I don't think you can do it in the US. So it's a little bit different how they will, you know, judge that part. But in general, it's global, like everything is the same. You want to do the search, you want to make sure it's not descriptive, and you want to be very careful when you do the classification, make sure that you cover the relevant classes. And one common mistake is class 35, that people miss that because it's sales. So if you're into selling, I mean, say I make my own jewelry and I sell it, right? Then I might protect the jewelry class, but not the sales class because I'm in jewelry. So it's very common you miss. So when you do the classification by yourself, it's very easy to miss classes because you think the wrong way. So if you want to do it yourself, you need to talk to the office and like have a conversation with an expert.
Get them to walk you through
or get help with that part. So everyone can register their trademark. I think it's easy, just go in and do it. But the classification, that's where you need help.
Right.
That's
so in your opinion, it sounds like it's so important, and my head's going, oh my God, what have I not done? But on a level of importance for, say, a brand new or medium business, on a scale of 1 to 10, so with 1 being, to 10 being, oh my God, you gotta do it. On a level of importance, where would you put protecting your IP?
I mean,
I know I'm probably asking the wrong person, you say 10, but I mean, realistically, for somebody maybe they're starting out, they are a coach, they're, you know, money is tight, because I know some people are in that environment, money is a bit tight, they're going, okay, website, domains, blah, 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 whatever. Number one, how important is it to do it that early? And number two, is it something that can be done no matter how far you are in the business?
It can always be done. I mean, you can do it even if you've been in business 10 years or 20 years. So, I mean, I'm helping one business here in Sweden now. There's a family business that's like 2nd generation, I think, and I'm protecting it now. So it's never too late. But I would do it when I start, because you want to have, like, you have all your intangible assets. It's a difficult word for me, but you have all of those assets. It's not only the trademark, right? So you have, as you said, the domain. You want the domain to be the same as the name you have on Facebook, that you have on Instagram, that you have on all social media, so the clients can find you everywhere, right? So that's why I would, like, when I put my brand together, when I put everything together, I come up with the name, I would want to make sure that I can protect my trademark too. So everything goes well together, because if you don't do it like when you're starting and then you want to do it 5 years later, you might not be able to do it, or you need to change something in the name. You know, it's easier to do it from the start. So if you're thinking of starting a business, before you start, I would go for the trademark, or at least make sure it can be protected. Like, look at what are the chances. So I don't put a lot of work into a descriptive mark, most of all, because that's the most common problem. And then they're crying because I'm telling them
they've built everything on that name.
I mean, I had someone that wanted to work with me, and she got mad at me because she have a descriptive name that she's trying to protect that can't be protected. And it's, you know, then it's too late. She's already started her business. So
So tell me, as you've been building this business and transitioning from, you know, the workplace, doing that, to actually coming out and doing this on a one-on-one, on a personal coaching, consulting kind of way, what has been, you know, some of the biggest mistakes that you've made along the way of growing your own business?
I haven't made me.
It's like, how long have you got? How long have you got?
Exactly. So first of all, one big mistake I think I did early on, because I had a good capital when I started, so I wasted too much time and money on courses. instead of getting professional help. Like for instance, if I would have gotten like professional help with some things, that would have made my business take off much faster than me trying to figure everything out by myself.
Yeah, that's a common mistake. We all think we have to do it. And I do believe you have to know enough that when somebody else does it, you know what they're doing. But oh my goodness, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, so yeah, that's also a problem. Then when I did hire people, they were not so good. So that's difficult though, because I don't know how you evaluate that really, because if someone tells you they can do something, like the first person I asked to do a logo, she said, I can do a logo for you. I'm like, okay, great, awesome, let's do it, you know. And then she just, you know, drew up a nice picture. I'm like, this is not the logo. This is, you know, a nice picture. I still bought it because it wasn't too expensive. So I'm like, okay, fine, I can use it, you know, in my social media, but it's not the logo. So then, you know, so you also need to evaluate the help you get. And
and get examples of other things they've done, I guess. Yeah, but you're right. Even getting that help, whether it's somebody setting up your website or it's somebody setting up your membership, for example, if that's what you want to do. But really, for me, it's about looking at who is the best person in that area that I need support with. And like yourself, I have some shelf development, I like to call it, where it just ends up on the shelf somewhere because I feel I have to do it myself. But I don't know what it is or why we believe that we have to, that we're not good enough or whatever to, or our business isn't big enough or whatever it is, that we said, I have to struggle, I have to do it myself. Get a coach, get a mentor, get a business coach, whatever it is you need to get to where you need to go. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, and also like there's some things in your business that you might be able to do, but takes a lot of energy from you. Yes. Because it's so boring or it drains you. So for me, that's bookkeeping. So that's also something I'm putting away to someone else. Because and the problem with that is I've been working with bookkeeping for many years. I know how to do it myself, but it takes so much energy because I don't want to do it. so stuff like that.
And that frees you up to do the thing that you're good at, which will get more clients, which will bring more money into the business to pay the people to do the things that you need them to do. I agree on the bookkeeping and accounting side. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's
go ahead.
No, you can.
So one of the things in business as we grow our own business as well is we sometimes have to make pretty hard or uncomfortable decisions. What would you say, one of the hardest decisions that you had to make to build your business?
To start.
It's so simple, but it's so true. It's like you think about, again, going back to the ideas, I could do this, I could do this, I could do that, I could do this, but it's to start. I love that.
Yeah, to actually like get out of a secure job and to start to take the chance. Also for me, as you were saying, there's a million ideas out there, and I would say I have like all of them.
500,000 at least.
I can give you, if you just give me a topic, I will like brainstorm you for ideas until you say to stop. So the problem for me was and I'm still struggling with this, is to niche down. It's a big problem because I want to do this and I want to do that and everything sounds fun, and then I start doing a little bit of everything, and I have to so it was difficult for me to decide that I can't do everything, and that I need to do that. It's okay to choose one thing now, and just because I choose one thing now doesn't mean I don't get to do the other fun stuff later, or I can change, or because I have like four ideas that I'm being spinning around, and I've been starting and going back and starting and going back. So I started talking about coaching and leadership and stress and work environment because it's very easy topics for me since I did a trade union for 10 years. I know everything that goes on a workplace and how to help people there. So I started there, and I found, it's so many people in this area in leadership, and shit. And then I saw nobody's talking about intellectual property in the online in the social media space. It's very few talking about intellectual property. And I saw a lot of mistakes being made all the time. Like we talked about the descriptive name, I saw the templates going on, and I found myself like giving advice everywhere, like, hey, did you think about this? And then I'm like, oh, there's a need for this, you know?
Yeah.
So then I went into that. And I also have like, my heart goes also to the music business, because with intellectual property, it's super important for them. Since I was working with developing countries before, in Africa, for instance, like musicians don't get paid for their work in general. They even have to pay to get played instead of collecting royalties and get money.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's also, but I couldn't find like where are the money in this business? It's more like, you know, keep doing developing work. So how can I do that in a business way? But I'm also going back to that. So that's wrapping up in the intellectual property field too, that for the music business. And my ex-boyfriend, he was in the music business too in Africa. He was from Nigeria. So then I just, you know, I tried all my theories on him. I'm like, I think that being in the music business in Africa is this is like, yes. I'm like, shit, that's bad.
Okay, you're right. And you know what? You've brought up a really good point, because again, we've talked about there is no shortage of ideas. And I did the same. Like, I never, ever, 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 ever thought I would be in any kind of marketing. That wasn't my gig. I was a waitress from my hometown, really. And I came across coaching through life experiences and changing. You go, I need to change. And I came across coaching, and my idea was I can talk to people and help them and get paid for it. Holy guacamole. But I think along the way, it's like, you know, I was getting great reviews, and, you know, I would do online live coaching. I was a mentor for coaches. But if I couldn't market myself, I actually couldn't make a living out of it.
Yeah.
And that was a hard pill to swallow. It's like, I've done all this study, I've done all this work. You know, people say I'm great there. Now you're telling me I have to do this. And that's where the marketing training for me came. I had to, I may or may not have been helped down the rabbit hole by a mentor of mine. But I had to go down the rabbit hole of, well, how does the kind of brain work? How do people make decisions? How can I show them what I know is going to help them most without me just saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. And there is a really good psychology actually behind this decision making when you start looking at it. And it was when people started seeing that, they go, how do you do that? And I went, whoa, who knew that somebody else needed this too? Because obviously there was other people out there like me. But it moved on even further. And I think this is the key point I'm trying to get across, is the open-mindedness and remaining flexible to know that you don't know where you're going to end up yet. If you had told me, I would have ended up making videos, teaching people how to make videos, even 6 years ago, I would have laughed in your face and said, are you crazy? What are you talking about? And like, I cried over my keyboard making my first ever video over 27 hours. Like, it was horrendous, but something in me, and I was guided by an amazing mentor, something in me knew I had to learn it. Now at the other side of it, I'm going, oh my God, all these people need to learn about video and how video can help them promote their business. And that. And now I have the skills to do it. But that's the key thing, is remaining flexible enough and just starting with, we all know there's millions of ideas. That is not the problem. Start with one, but remain open and flexible to go, well, that's not working that much, but hang on. The skills I learned there are quite often transferable to what you need over here.
Yeah, and I also think that's something you mentioned, that's what aha moment for me, that sometimes you think that your knowledge is common knowledge. Yes. Like when you teach people, you said like, oh, I teach people this, you know. So I had that.
And they pay me to teach them what?
Yeah. So with intellectual property, for me, like I've been working with, you know, national and international experts in intellectual property for in the training courses for 6 years from different countries. They were the highest level of intellectual property experts, right? So in that environment, I'm the one that knows the least, right?
Yes.
So when I come out to the real world, outside of that bubble, it took me a very long time to realize that I'm actually an expert in intellectual property too. And it took me a long time to like, oh, what I know about it, it's not the common knowledge, you know, in the real world, people don't know this, but in the world, everyone knows.
So right. Yeah, because I used to often say to my clients that the minute you can hear yourself say something along the lines of, oh, doesn't everyone know that, is usually your key knowledge. So I was the same with hospitality, and people used to say, how do you deal with the complaints? And I'm going, oh, good old-fashioned Irish hospitality. Why doesn't everybody know that? The truth was that I actually had a skill of being able to develop rapport and trust quite easily. But I didn't see it as a skill. I was like, doesn't everyone do that? What the hell's wrong with you? And things like that are exactly as you say, when you come out of that fishbowl and you come out, you go, no, not everybody knows that at all.
Yeah, customer care is very typical. That I've been working in like different, I've been working in grocery store, in a hotels. I've been working in different kind of occupations where you deal with a lot of customers and a lot of not happy customers too. So
and add alcohol into that. When I was in hospitality, there's customers, not happy customers, and then alcohol as well.
Yeah. So when you do that, it's actually a really good practice, because as you said, you think it's common knowledge how to handle complaint and how to handle people. But the practice you get working in that kind of businesses, you can't get that from going to a higher education or like in a school.
Or from reading a book.
No, and you need to like always, I remember like always keeping my cool. I was customer care at an office too, and they were calling, and there was this guy, he was yelling at me for a good like 5 minutes. He was really upset over his cheese wasn't right, you know. Anyways, so when he does that, and he's like, and after he calms down, he's like, oh, but you're very nice. You're actually very nice, because I was just very polite, you know, I didn't care what he was saying. And he's like, but you're very nice. I'm like, thank you, but that's your job. I'm like, yes. So, you know.
You can't hear what's going on in here. So tell me, how do you go about marketing your business now?
Yeah, so actually I'm not very good at marketing, I think.
We need to talk.
No, I've been working, I mean, I'm good at marketing because I'm very visible online. You can see, if you Google my name, Tracy J Hoffman, you can find me. I see I have been very active online, and I have been active in different entrepreneurial groups. So that's how I find my clients. So that has been like my stronger side, building social media. So yeah.
And at the end of the day, my theory always is, well, what's the end result you want? You want to get 10 clients a week, 5 clients, whatever it is. If you're getting that through the strategy that you're using, because everything's a strategy, well, then the strategy is working. And quite often we say, oh, I'm not very good. Well, you're not very good compared to what? This is the thing. We're measuring ourselves on some invisible bar or on somebody else.
Yeah, I think I'm good at it. I mean, when I talk to other people at the office, like the online presence I have, and I know how to get out, but then the result, I'm not happy with the results I get always. I wish it would be more. And also, I'm also the tech, I get caught up in the tech.
Oh my God. Yeah, I hear you.
The CRM systems, I've been like struggling with deciding which one, because we also have the GDPR rule here in Sweden. So when I start with one, and then I realized that this is not compliant with that, so I have to change. So I'm like I want to do everything perfect. So that's the problem, I think.
Retired. I'm a retired perfectionist myself. So let me ask you with a couple more questions, and then we finish up. I'm mindful of the time. What part does video play in your marketing or in your teaching or in your education? Are you using video at all?
Yeah, I started recently actually. So I have one YouTube channel with intellectual property. I posted maybe 4 or 5 videos so far. I did one once a week. I didn't do one last week. And also on TikTok, I started to do some videos. So other than that, I haven't used it a lot on Instagram. I can use it more there because my Instagram is pretty good following. So I should do it more active there. But yeah, for YouTube, I have been starting to do like answering different intellectual property questions. Like I have, like we discussed about the registration for business or website or trademark. I have one video about that. And can you get the world patent? I'm answering questions that people have, like, you know.
Awesome, because that's what they're searching for on Google, and that's how they'll find you. Because like Instagram in particular, you need to get onto that, because Instagram have already announced a good while ago that they will give more attention and more airtime to video rather than a static image.
Okay.
Because they believe people are there to be entertained or to find an answer to something that they want. So that it's quicker and easier to watch a video than it is sometimes to read this big long text as well. So certainly is a way of going. So before we finish up, tell anyone that's watching, if they did want to get in contact with you, how could they do that? What's the best way for them to communicate with you?
So the best way is on social media, on Instagram. I'm very active there. You have is Tracy J Hoffman SWE, SWE, or you can also email me, of course, tracy@tracyjhoffman.com.
Cool, awesome.
And just Google me, Google my name, and you will find me anywhere. I'm on all
Tracy J Hoffman, she's everywhere.
Yes,
so one question I always like to ask my guests before we finish off, and that is, if you weren't doing what you're doing right now, what would you be doing that's different?
If I wasn't doing, like, for my business, or for, if I would like change niche?
No, even in life, it's up to you how you answer. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, building a business, doing this, doing that, doing the other, what would you be doing instead?
Travel.
Travel. Easy, traveling. Is there any particular countries you'd like to travel to first?
As I said, I was working with least developed countries a lot before. So I love African countries. I'm actually in love with those. And I've been to many, and also I mean, I have, since that training, like that work, I have friends in more than 15 countries. So I just want to travel and meet people that I know in different places.
Awesome. Cool. So Tracy, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. It's been a pleasure having you, and I look forward to chatting to you again. But thank you so much for being here with Perfect Sake Marketing Adventures.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks.
My pleasure. And guys, remember to hit the subscribe and the bell, or if you have any comments you're watching on social media or anywhere else, put a comment in the comment box and we'll make sure that we get that answered for you too. But for now, it's bye for me.